Okay, hello and welcome to another edition of Tete a Tete. I have in the studio with me my guest, Beth Wallow. And before I introduce her, let me just give you an introduction to what we are going to talk about tonight. So, Patrice Lumumba, the first Prime Minister of Congo, became the Premier at independence from colonial Belgium in June 1960, right through to September of that year. Following the Belgian-backed battle for secession by rebels in Katanga province, Lumumba was taken prisoner, tortured, and brutally murdered, an event that shook the entire world. His body was decimated and rendered down in acid. The only remaining part of him was a tooth recovered by a Flemish official, which, after 60 years, including many legal actions, will be returned to the great man's family on the 21st of June and repatriated to his native Congo. A mausoleum will be established for his official interment at a state function. Now, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC, is widely known to be the wealthiest country in the world in untapped resource wealth. She has an estimated 24 trillion US dollars in untapped mineral deposits, including the world's largest reserves of coltan, where the elements niobium and tantalum are extracted, and significant quantities of the world's cobalt and lithium. These are all strategic minerals without which modern electronics, communication, and mobile industries could not function. The DRC also has limitless water from the world's second largest river, the River Congo. A mild climate and rich soil makes the land fertile. But the nation is as politically troubled as it is resource rich, with severe consequences for the welfare of her nearly 90 million people. The UNDP estimates a human development score that puts the resource rich nation at 175th of 189 nations, with neighboring Rwanda, for example, coming in at 160, Nigeria coming in at 161, and South Africa coming in at number 114. Yet, every Congolese, owing to their nation's sovereign wealth, should be born a millionaire. Why is this so? Why the stark contrast between potential and actual wealth? What is it about the politics, the history, the mentality of the leaders that 60 years after independence, the world's richest nation seems to stumble from crisis to crisis? Tonight, I'm joined by Berth Wallow, Pan Africanist, entrepreneur, and activist. She's resident in London, campaigning for her people to help me understand what has and is happening in the Congo and what, if any, lessons can be learned by other nations on the continent from her experience. Bert, I'm West African, Ghanaian. You and I are friends. Um, I have never understood why the Congo, rich as it is in the situation that it has repeatedly been. If I may just introduce this, when Patrice Lumumba was killed, that was the first time I saw my father, who was a career diplomat, visibly distressed. Actually, I was a little boy. I didn't know that your parents could be that distressed outside of a family bereavement. We didn't know. I didn't know Mr. Lumumba. He wasn't Lumumba's personal friend, but the distress that he expressed, it left an indelible mark in my mind because that was the first time as a little boy I realized that we live in a world in which really horrible things can happen. Because if the person who is the rock in your life can be so disturbed by an event, then indeed we live in a dangerous world. So let's try and understand exactly what happened back in those days. First of all, tell me, how important is the return of President Lumumba's remains. How important is it to go back to Congo?
Oh, it's crucially important. The return of the relics to Congo, of Patrice Lumumba specifically, is crucially important because Lumumba is, I think, put together with the revival of the Congolese nation and the people.
Mm-hmm.
The way Lumumba was killed and
Mm-hmm.
dismembered and dissolved in a sulfuric acid, I
Mm-hmm.
think that whole episode has left the Congolese people and nation rather fragile. It was done in a way that so he would never even have a place, considering the kind of person he had become for the Congo, Africa, and the world.
What
The
kind of
perpetrators,
person? Tell me, what kind of person had he become? What did he stand for?
you just described, you just told me now that when he died, the reaction of your father rose something in you, which until today, you still remember. That's what Patrice Lumumba has caused everywhere he went, because he was the hope of not only Congolese, Africans, but also Black people around the world. Because there was a man who has understood that although we are Black, but we are also equally human beings. And to that level, we can demand that a white man leave our country, which was not at the time the connotation, or was not even the way the white
It was
imperialists.
unthinkable. It was right. Yes.
Exactly. They were actually trying to put it as if they are offering it to us. We will give you independence in so year. We will do this. No, but Lumumba had understood something, and he decided to demand. He said, we are born free people. We are free. We are Congolese. You have no business being here. We demand our independence. And that alone was rather dangerous already. He was gradually, every single step he took, he put himself in danger zone. But what was so important with the Congolese national hero is that his own person did not matter. It did not matter. He said once to them, he said, if you kill me today, Congolese people have understood. There will always be many, many more Lumumba that will come in the Congo and in Africa. That's what Lumumba was. So when they decided to kill him, they decided not to even have a place for people to go, even just to leave a flower, because they said they can't have that.
He had
That
to be
is why
completely. He had to be completely erased. They didn't just kill him. They had to erase him, which
they
is why
wanted to erase him. He never existed, so that the following generations will only hear, but there would not be that tangible element of tangible to even
right.
to visit his grave. But the Bantu that we are, if
Mhm.
I might put it like that, 60
So,
years on,
mhm.
his spirit has lived on, and he will get it eventually. Because at the time, who knew 60, 40 years ago, nobody knew that Lumumba's tooth and finger bone were somewhere. They came out themselves. So he has contradicted them even in the death. That's Lumumba.
I
That's
can
who he
feel
was.
good. I can feel the passion, and you paint a pretty good picture. Will you be going to the return of his what's left? I understand it's a tooth which is going to be given to his children, and they will fly it back for them to the Congo. Will you be going to the Congo to see the celebrations and so on?
Yes, it will be the tooth given to his children, but it's a national event, because the president of DRC himself will
Mhm.
be was supposed to, because there's something I must announce, that when we were
Yes.
organizing this program, we knew just before I entered the studio, I found out
Yep.
that it has been cancelled because of because of the pandemic. There is a rising alarm in the Congo at the moment. So they've postponed it. I just found out now. But no matter when that will occur, the president of DRC, including 2 African leaders, will come and receive that from the Belgian authorities,
I see.
including
So what you're
including
telling,
his children.
right? Well, so we're breaking this here now. What you're saying is that the tooth won't be formally handed over on the 21st. Is that what you're saying?
It was supposed to, but this time it postponed. At the moment, it postponed because of the pandemic.
Okay. Tell me, how are the Congolese people viewing this? I mean, how have people taken it?
It was a mixture feelings. Remember, Congo is such a massive nation with so many different. You sometimes if a Congolese that's coming from the west, where I am, for instance, and the one that's coming from the east or south, when we are thinking, when we are doing, you might think we are from 2 different countries because of our own tribes
Mhm,
where we come from, and
mhm,
so there's an element of tribalism in it. But
mhm.
what is quite positive in this whole approach is the place and the willingness of the Congolese leader, the president, to actually unite the Congolese people around this event, because that's what Lumumba was. So has been trying to do really is to set aside all the differences or political differences or of any kind, and just honor the man for who he was.
So this is an actually quite a unifying event, is what you're saying.
It's supposed to be a unifying event. I see from what I see, from what like I was saying just now, from what I'm seeing from the authorities, they want it to be like that, but the people, people themselves, it could be just questions. They're asking themselves questions. For instance, there is a question: why is this supposed to be on the 30th? Why was it supposed to be? Because we can now talk about it in the past because they've just
Right,
postponed it.
right.
Why was it supposed to be on the 30th of June, the Independence Day?
Mhm.
The independent, why do you want to an important personalities burial with another important event, which is our Independence Day? Some
Mhm.
people don't understand why, perhaps the president, or that's why that date was chosen. Well, first of all, the first person to announce Mobutu, to proclaim Lumumba as a national hero was not President Tshisekedi. It was President Mobutu in 1966. For those who don't know, he took part in the killing of Lumumba. President Mobutu took part. Now, on the 30th of June, just about 5 years after he's been killed, he took a stand and called him a national hero on that day. And
Can you
that's
explain? Can you explain that? If he was the person who was instrumental or played a part in his death, why would he then be the person to come along and declare him a national hero?
it was a political decision, because you remember at the time when Lumumba died, a lot of leaders around the world were so upset with that, did not condone it, did not, and literally they were themselves on the case to pursue those who were believed to having committed that act. Yes. So I don't know if you would remember when the president, I'll call him president because that's how he's also known, Chombe, the one who did the secession of Katanga. He
Right?
was arrested. He was arrested. He was in the air passing. I think he was from Europe. He was passing over Algeria. They ordered the flight down and they arrested him. Why? Because of Lumumba's death. So it was like that, really. Nobody, like earlier, like you had like a president of Russia. who hit a shoe on the table at the UN when he learned that Lumumba had been savagely assassinated. A lot of it was a serious event that year. Everywhere, every capital you would have seen some sort of manifestation against what had happened to Lumumba. So, seeing that, Mobutu, of course, became frightened and they realized that he had no friends. By taking that stand, for him, it was to say, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. You see, I am now declaring him a national hero. But when he did that, no Congolese protested. Nobody said, "Oh no, you can't proclaim him a national hero. You took part." But instead, we all chanted, "Lumumba national hero, Lumumba a national hero." Now, what President Mobutu, Tshisekedi, Felix Tshisekedi is doing is just following on that. Another thing is,
Sorry, no, hang on a minute. But let me understand this properly. Well, what you're saying is that basically President Lumumba is a bit of a talisman. He is such a hero, such a great, mighty oak for the whole of Africa, that anybody who drapes himself in his image, his history, and so on, is elevated and kind of gains brownie points. Is that what you're saying?
that is exactly what I'm trying to say. It has nothing to do really with who. It could be yourself or me tomorrow that decided, okay, government is playing games, keep it all, I will do it. I will be elevated just because of that. It's actually the charismatic Lumumba that when we do something about him, we get a bit of that.
Okay.
But
See,
yes.
yeah, I think this is important because there's a whole generation. There are two generations of people who've been born who were outside of Lumumba's time. He is at the outside kind of dim edge of my own memory. Now, the point is that our difficulty in Africa is that we're very myopic, with good reason. Every country has got big fish to fry. Every
Mhm.
country has got its own problems. And
Yes.
so we spend our time contemplating our neighbors and looking at our feet in our own countries,
Mhm.
not realizing that actually often the lessons that are being learned elsewhere may provide exactly the solution to the problems that we have. And this is why, in part, I wanted so strongly at your suggestion for us to have this conversation. So, since when Lumumba was killed that way, what happened to the Congo?
Well,
Just give me a potted history,
yes. Basically, I think if you allow me, it is
please.
quite important that we understand why Lumumba was killed. Not so particularly the way he was killed. He was killed, he was killed. Yes,
Yeah,
but why?
brutal. Yeah,
Lumumba
good.
was killed because he was deemed to be dangerous for the Western interest. We all know that in 1885, there was this big conference in Berlin, in Germany, where they decided the future of. Some
Africa.
people think it. Some people think it's really Africa, but it was mainly the Congo. They, because at that time every other country was already divided into Ghana, Nigeria, this and that.
Organized.
it
Yep.
it was only Congo that was going to cause the first world war between the West. I must remind us here that at that time Belgium and France almost entered a war because of who wanted to keep Congo came first and this and that. Because at that time they had realized what Congo was. And then they all decided, okay, we can't do that. Let's go and settle over a conference. They went there. It was the outcome of that conference that is keeping Congo where it is today. We are all saying sometimes it could be A, it could be C, it could be B. But another mistake occurred for when in 1960, January 1960, when they decided to go for the independence in June. They did not settle what was said at the Berlin conference to know what was said, what's happening from now. So they rushed them into it, which is another thing. So many Congolese have complained about this repatriation of the truth. They say it's too quick, because when something is done suddenly, a lot of things is missed out. It's only
A lot of things
later.
are swept under the carpet. Yes.
Yes, it's only later you come to realize, oh, if we had time, we should have done A, we should have done B, we should have done C. So at that time, the independence was decided suddenly and went ahead with. That the Berlin conference outcome was never debated. So when Lumumba now is, and other martyrs and fathers of the Congolese independence believe we are now independence, we've sought our independence. No, they're pushing them like that because they've made their own. When I say they, I mean the imperialists. They've made their own closed door decisions. Let's just give them political independence, but not economical independence. But later it transpired into not even the political independence was given. Yeah. So they went ahead like that. They refused, they did not allow Lumumba to reign. I must remind us here that Lumumba is the winner. Lumumba should have been the first president of the independent Congo because he won the elections. But because of the pressures that came from everywhere, with the plot of the Belgians and the imperialists in general, there was the secession of Katanga, of Bakwanga. The president Kasavubu, who became president, was also threatening that if I am not the president of this country, I am going to have my own secession in my province, my native province. So Lumumba was now in the face of all that. How can I unite my brothers? So he said to Kasavubu, okay, you can have it. So he gave an electoral order to his party people that in the parliament you must vote for Kasavubu to become the president. That is how Kasavubu became the first president of the DRC. But what happened? Lumumba was the one who, it's just like here really, but here is in UK is the queen and then is the prime minister. But in the Congo, it was, I would say maybe it was supposed to be like Israel, where the leader of the government really is the prime minister. But the imperialists, they knew that they cannot allow Lumumba to reign for 1 month, otherwise they are doomed. They can't. Afterward, he will sweep them away. That is why you notice right away from the composition of the government, right away, they started secession here. It was just so that was trouble him. He doesn't know where to start, what to do. A few months later, in September, I think the 5th of September, Kasavubu then goes and announced that he revoked Lumumba, something that he was not supposed to do. And that
What do you mean? What do you mean not? Excuse me. What do you mean not supposed to do? Something which he did not have the power to do?
According to the political regime of the Congo at the time, it was a parliamentary regime. He was not supposed to revoke.
Okay, he didn't have the authority to make that decision. Is that what you're saying? He didn't have the constitutional authority to make that decision.
Right. That's right. He did not have that constitutional authority to do that.
Right.
But years later, the books, the historian, the archives have shown us that he was pushed to do so by the Belgians, and he wasn't strong enough to say, no, I can't. He did say, but they ordered him to do it. But what's so important to remember here is that the consequence of that act, it has haunted the Congo until today. Because after that, although the killing of Lumumba occurred, the killing of millions of people, everyone who was believed to be of Lumumba's party or supporter was killed, was purchased. They were all, even the very end of the Congo, that will follow you, they will kill you. People died. People died. I mean, I don't know if it's more, if it's less than now. But after all that, then Mobutu came to power, because the godfathers, if I may refer to them like that, deemed that Kasavubu was not courageous enough to do the dirty jobs that were to be done. So Mobutu came along and swept Kasavubu away. He took his car and moved to his province to sit there with his wife, and then Mobutu continued from, you see, from the point where Kasavubu, what I'm trying to say is the same attitude that Kasavubu portrayed by revoking Lumumba now remained within the Congolese political arena, where the president can do what he wants. Even if you are this prime minister, or if you are that minister, or whoever, it's what the president said. It's basically, you are there just like figurative or whatever, but when the president opens his mouth and says something, your constitutional right as a prime minister, as such a minister, gets swept
or
away.
Even as a citizen,
yes.
Or even as a citizen, can just
there
show
you
up
go.
and smack.
There you go. It gets swept away, and you do what one soul man wants. That is why we had a 32 years dictatorship of Mobutu, which didn't help, which just took the country down and down and down. After that, what did we have? The two Kabila that came, we had the aggression, the war of aggression from Rwanda and Uganda. Of course, we know the true commanders of that conflict, but it was through Rwanda and Uganda. Now Congo has another conflict imposed upon him, where it's outsiders.
Are you suggesting that Uganda and Rwanda have been put up to destabilizing the Congo? Is that what you're suggesting?
It's no longer a suggestion, Ted. It's no longer a suggestion. There's so many archives, documentation out there that can today confirm that it's no longer a suggestion. It's a fact. It's a fact. Okay. It's a fact.
So what does this teach you? You call yourself a Pan-Africanist. What is the implication? If a sovereign African nation, if it's being subverted by its own people, that's not good. That's another problem. But if other African nations can be prevailed upon to undermine another African nation, what does that tell you about the whole issue of Pan-Africanism and where it stands today?
Well, it's telling me that we still have a lot of work to do. Because if we want to go back centuries back, when the Arabs, when the whites used to come in Africa to took in slavery our foregrandfathers and grandmothers, they still used to use other Africans to do the dirty jobs. And if that is still happening today, then it's genuinely a concern. A concern. And that tells us that there is a lot of work that still needs to be done. That there are.
Yeah, Lisa, I mean, I could go on with this forever, because that itself is a gripping yarn. But the next question I was going to ask you is, obviously, the oldest trick in the colonialist playbook is to divide and rule the people. You know, Katanga sides off, and then it provides the opportunity for other people to destabilize Patrice Lumumba, and he's murdered. Okay, why is Congo so divided? That's a tough question, I know, especially seeing as you are part of it. And I'm going to have to ask you to try and be as dispassionate as you can be, because Beth, what you say here is so important for other countries. And if I may say so, you see, a country like Ghana knows nothing. We have seen nothing by comparison. I suspect that it's because we are nowhere near as rich as you for people to be as beastly to us as they have been to you. Kenya, we didn't have to establish a Mau Mau. Of course, we had an independence struggle led by Kwame Nkrumah, and there were the soldiers who were shot and killed, which sparked off the independence riots. But we, there is nothing in our history. We don't have a civil war like in Nigeria. These, there was the Biafran War and so on. So, what I would really like is for you to try and explain so that the rest of us don't fall into these holes, so that your terrible experience can benefit the continent. So, please answer my question. Why is Congo so disunited?
I will tell you that if, as a Congolese native, I will tell you that we are not divided. We are portrayed divided.
You are okay.
By those who have interest within the Congo. I just told you now that from year 1997 until now, Congo has known a conflict which has costed more than 10 million people dead. Until now, I have never seen such a conflict in the world that is downplayed like the Congolese conflict. Now, where did that conflict originated? Apparently, that conflict originated from Rwanda. There was a genocide in Rwanda. The
Hutus
Hutu
and
are
Tutsis?
pushed. The Hutu are pushed into Congo, and then suddenly it becomes at the time it was called Zaire, Zairean problem. Why?
Mm-hmm.
We just opened the border so that in fact, at the time, Zaire did not even want to open its borders, but the UN insisted. The plan was already there. All that you hear, genocide of Rwanda, everything that happened in the Great Lake of Africa happened so that what you see in Congo today occurs. Because of what happened, now Kagame has been given a green card in the Congo.
Hang on. Go back one step. Go back one step. Then Zaire opens its borders as a fraternal act encouraged by the United Nations. Why? Because the genocide is happening in neighboring Rwanda. And so you open your gates for the Hutus to come into the Congo. Take us from there. What happens
and
next?
they push and they escort them. They escort the Hutu army population with their guns and everything, just so later it would give them an excuse to say these people are attacking us. But you were leading them. They led them into Zaire. You could see they had the artilleries. Why didn't you remove it from them while you are taking them into a neighboring country? Now, they started using that in quotation because I have been looking, we really never established how those people were going back to go and attack Rwanda. So, because of that, Rwanda descended into Zaire. chased those people into the deepest of Congo and killed them all. The Hutus, they killed them, even so many Congolese. At the end of the day now, Uganda, Rwanda arrived in the town of Kisangani. They started fighting between themselves because they've arrived. They're now fighting over a territory that has a lot of gold. They started fighting. Another country. And all this, the UN was playing it down, covering it, because the agenda was not that. The agenda was really to balkanize the Congo.
Okay.
And that
is this period what you call the Congolese genocide?
It's throughout that period. If you take from 1997 to today, maybe 20 million Congolese have died. But nobody speaks about that. Nobody speaks about Congolese death. There is a UN mapping report done by the UN officials that is sitting in New York, that pinpointing responsibility of each individual in the Congolese death, which which is being kept hidden diplomatically because it's about Kagame.
Dynamite. It's dynamite. I mean, it's explosive information. Yeah. Okay. So because of all of these external forces, quite apart from any internal problems you've got, the Congo seems constantly to be kept on its back foot. And of course, as long as Congo's balkanized, the $24 trillion worth of assets and resources won't be available to you.
I don't think I finished answering your question, because your question was, why is Congo kept like that?
Right.
That is why Lumumba had to die. Because Lumumba was one of the first citizens to understand that this country belongs to us, and everything else that's in it is ours. Now, the imperialists did not want that understanding to settle.
That mentality.
In the Congolese mentality.
Got it.
So everything, they started rushing everything. And while Congolese people were busy celebrating, we are independence, they're just being played. The one person who refused to the bribery and who only wanted what was the best for Congo and its people was Lumumba. Every other people at that time, the elite at the time, they were all bribed. If Lumumba had 5 people on the table around him, perhaps 4 or 5 were receiving money to know what he was doing, where he was going, what he was saying. You go and tape his office, this and that. They were all bribed. But I found an excuse for them, personally. I say at that time, we're coming out of an unprecedented regime of colonial, where they didn't know whether, if we were so loyal to Lumumba, if he's caught, then they were perhaps afraid of repercussions upon them, reprisals.
Right.
And also the fact that there were a lot of money. Do you know that Belgian government voted a budget to bribe Congolese politicians, that Lumumba's agenda should not
be allowed? Okay.
You see?
Hang on, let me just share a couple of the comments.
Congo is where it is today for one reason, because Lumumba's view of a glorious Congo was cut short.
Was crushed.
And what we have today, what we see today, is the Congo plotted by Belgians and the West. That Congolese people must remain like that. So they can always come in Congo and get what they want. The idea of doing business with Congolese the way, business occurs should not happen. They just have to on and on throw us into wars. They will come throughout the war. How much have they taken the last 20 years since the
Okay,
conflict has started?
got it.
They don't
Got it.
buy.
Okay,
They don't buy. They come.
and they take.
They say in Congo they armed. Can I tell you that throughout the conflict, the armed conflict in the Congo,
Yeah. Armed conflict between who and who? Beth, you have to put a few details together because most people, including myself, haven't got the facts. Okay, the armed
yeah,
conflict.
I'm
Which one are you
overwhelmed.
talking
I'm
about?
overwhelmed. I want to say it all.
Absolutely. No, I understand completely. I understand completely. But which conflict are you referring to now?
That's the 1997
Okay.
where
Okay. Right.
that's the beginning, isn't it? The beginning of
Of
the
course.
current conflict.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Since that time, the West had branded Congolese. Uh, they've put us under embargo. So in the east part of the Congo, they come, they arm people, and they call them. They arm the militias. So individuals, people cannot go certain areas which are known quite wealthy, and over there they're just extracting. They're taking. They're taking. Why do you see the booming in the uh, um, certain industries without so many minerals that's coming from the DRC? You wouldn't
Absolutely. I
see.
mean, well, coltan and lithium are two absolutely strategic minerals without which most of the technology we use today would grind to earth, screaming halt, and the Congo has most of it. Let me just share, a couple of these comments here. Teddy Bongo says that where are we now? What an enjoyable and informative history lesson discussion. Thank you, Beth. We hear you. That's an encouragement. And then I have another one here from this is from Alex Accorman. The reason was that Zaire opened up its borders for a so-called humanitarian corridor. Those who killed escaped with guns and military equipment. They regrouped to attack again. Mobutu was allowing arms in because he wanted to please France.
No,
Uh,
that if I
it
can answer that gentleman already, I can say that
sure.
that is a propaganda version. Mobutu was ill, was very sick at the time. He was in
Mm-hmm.
hospital in France. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
although we know that that orders, commandment can be given from anywhere we are. But all I
Mm-hmm.
know is that at that time, Zaire did not want to receive, and that the UN had even to threaten the Zaire to open the borders for these people to come in. And it was the UN and the French that was coming with these people. So it wasn't under Zaire responsibility to make sure these people don't come
I
with the
don't think
arms.
that's what he was saying. What he was saying, he said a humanitarian corridor. He was saying that it was
Excuse.
instituted from outside. It was an excuse. That's what Alex I believe was saying. Is there another one comment here? Where are we? With the arming of the Eastern people, we see a repetition of the arming of the Mujahideen, says Teddy Bongo. So these things are a pattern which have played out across the whole of Africa and sometimes further, beyond, by the colonials who basically need to keep their grip on what they consider to be their playground. Um, Very unjustly so. So, what do you think? This is a tough question. Um, as a Congolese who has experienced all this stuff, and it's happening in your country, it's happening to your friends, to your family, to people who you're associated closely with, it's painful. What lesson do you think other Africans, first of all, apart from listening, to what's going on. What lessons do you think other Africans should take from the Congo? If you were going to give, if I was a head of state, you were going to give me advice, what would you say based on your experience in the Congo?
Yes, I believe that if Congo was truly independent, if Congo was sovereign, and if Congo was truly democratic, we would not see what we are seeing today. But those three elements are lacking within DRC. That's why you can see what you see in Congo. I don't really
The three
like to
elements
be
are democracy, freedom,
independence.
and
So,
independence.
yeah, I'm saying independence, democracy, and sovereignty. But
Okay.
I don't like to be in a place of lesson giving. But I think these are three important, if not crucial, elements in a country. We all know that. So if a country is lacking those, what more can you expect to see? That's why when you say, why is Congo divided? This and Congo is not divided. Congo is the image of what those who are inflicting that in the Congo want to give to the world. I don't know if I don't know if I am
You
clear
you've said
enough.
it. You said it very. You've said it very right. And of course, because the problem becomes that the information we receive forms our perception, and the perception we have creates our beliefs, and the beliefs that we hold about a place or a people determines the behavior we demonstrate towards them. So whether we respect them or not respect them, whether we support them or not support them, all of these
Mhm,
things
mhm.
depend on our perception. So
Yes.
it's that's why it's important for us to have this conversation. Please, you were going to
Mhm.
say something, Beth.
Yes, I was gonna just quickly add that Congo, considering the Congolese geopolitics,
Yes.
do you know Congo in Africa? I think it is the only country who has 9 neighbors. And Congo is to believe to be that country where the development of Africa will be initiated. Keeping Congo in the state under which it is today, I think we can all understand what is it that those who are keeping Congo in that state want from Africa. There was once someone called Franz Fanon said, Africa has the image of a gun. The trigger is in the Congo. That trigger can be both positive and negative. If Congo goes well, we have Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, Congo Brazzaville, Angola, Zambia, Tanzania, Sudan. Which one I'm forgetting? I'm forgetting one. 9 neighbors. Imagine if all of a sudden, with its 24 trillions said to be the mineral wealth, and Congo is emancipated, wouldn't the neighbor feel the wave?
They'd be the first. Well, I mean, they would be the first to benefit. In fact,
So,
I mean,
and
strategically,
and
yes.
equally, when things don't work in the Congo, maybe the neighboring country, like in the case of Rwanda, who is working closely with the West to persistently keep
Depressed.
Congo, depress Congo. That is why even in the ranking that you told us from the beginning at the introduction, Rwanda seems to be slightly
Well,
higher than Congo,
oh yeah.
but for how long? That cannot be a
It's not
long-term
sustainable.
development. It
No, it's not
cannot be.
sustainable. No, no. Beth, look, we've been at this for a while. It's been, as you know, one of our listeners said, it's been a most insightful look. The problem with these things is that if you don't know, you don't know. And if you don't know, you form the wrong attitudes, beliefs, and then follow with the wrong behaviors. I am hoping that in Africa, um, they say that the cart that overturns on the road ahead is a warning to the one behind. I
That's
hope
right.
that, we need to lift our eyes from immediately what's going on in front of us and look wider over the horizon. And I think that actually in Congo is the encapsulation. Congo is the petri dish in which every single problem you see in Africa is being played out by the forces that are unleashed across Africa. So, Bert, thank you so much for joining us. And my prayers are always with yourselves and your fellows and our brothers and sisters in the Congo. It's been very interesting. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for your audience for following us.
No, absolutely, and you must come again. We'll have to. We've only just scratched the surface of this subject, so we'll have to.
Anytime,
We'll have to continue. Okay.
anytime. Thank
Merci
you.
bien. Vous êtes très gentil. Allez,
Merci.
à la
Au revoir.
prochaine.
Au revoir.
And we're gonna go.